This is the calculator in Wintex we use to work out the claim against the fringe benefit levied for having the full use of a company car. We enter the car details and we enter that we have a logbook detailing mileage. We also enter dates of use and mileage figures. The car costs 300,000 Rand, so the fringe benefit amount is 3.5% of 300,000 per month. This works out to 126,000 for the year, or 10,500 Rand a month. SARS wants the employer to only levy 80% of this amount on our monthly salary, which means an amount of 8,400 Rand is added to our monthly salary for tax. This works out well, as we actually did 80% of our total mileage on private distance. So although 100% of 126,000 is added to our taxable income, we will be given a claim of 20% of the 126,000, or 25,200 for business distance. This means we'll only pay fringe benefit tax on the 80% of total mileage we did on private distance. SARS's formula of 20,000 kilometers business distance over the 100,000 kilometers total distance multiplied by the 126,000 Rand code 3802 fringe benefit means a claim of 25,200 against our income. In this case, both SARS and Wintex show the same claim of 25,200 Rand. Wintex calculates what Treasury calls a true inclusion amount, which is the amount which should have been added to our taxable income instead of the 126,000 Rand. In this case, Wintex says that 80% of our mileage was done privately, so 80% of 126,000, that's 100,800 Rand, should have been added to our income. The amount of 126,000 actually added to our income less the 100,800 true inclusion amount means a claim of 25,200. This concept of a true inclusion amount created by Treasury may be difficult to grasp until you look at a few different examples. What if the employer made a mistake and only levied half the fringe benefit amount at salary source? I'm going to drop the 126,000 code 3802 fringe benefit by half and enter only 63,000 Rand. The net amount that should have been levied and added to our income is 80% of 126,400, or 100,800 Rand, and yet only 63,000 was actually levied as a code 3802 fringe benefit. Using Treasury's true inclusion amount, we should actually add the difference of 37,800 to our income. Note that SARS says we are entitled to a claim of 12,600 Rand, in spite of the huge shortfall in fringe benefit during the year. What if the employer made an error and levied far too much fringe benefit? I will change the code 3802 fringe benefit amount for this car to 200,000 Rand. Using Treasury's true inclusion amount, Wintex says that 99,200 too much fringe benefit was levied at salary source, so we should be entitled to a claim of 200,000 Rand less 100,800 Rand, which is 99,200 against taxable income. SARS's formula shows a claim of only 40,000 Rand. I'll now change the code 3802 fringe benefit amount back to 126,000 Rand. In order to get a more accurate code 3802 fringe benefit amount for the IRP5, we should also take the number of days into account. After all, if the company car was taken away from the employee for the last 10 days of February 2019, then the code 3802 amount should be adjusted accordingly for 355 days. The true inclusion amount is the amount of fringe benefit tax that should actually have been levied in theory according to the number of days. Now I've changed the end date to the 18th of February. The taxpayer should have been taxed on 98,038 Rand for the 355 days when he was actually taxed on 80% of 126,000 for 365 days. The difference of 27,962 Rand should be the claim allowed. SARS's formula ignores the number of days of use. You can see that SARS's formula only provides correct answers if the employer levies the correct amount of fringe benefit tax for the correct car value for the correct period. Let me change back to our original figures. If this taxpayer had done only 10% of total distance on business and 90% of total distance on private mileage, then it stands to reason that he should get less of a claim against the Code 3802 fringe benefit amount which was added to his income. The difference between the Code 3802 amount of 126,000 Rand and the true inclusion amount is our claim of 12,600 Rand, says Wintax, and SARS agrees. Since we did 90% of mileage privately, we should pay tax on 90% of the Code 3802 fringe benefit amount of 126,000 Rand added to income. Let me change the mileage figures back. SARS allows the claim amount to be increased in cases where an employee paid for motoring expenses. If we enter an amount of 10,000 Rand paid for fuel by the employee, I'm just going to slide the screen over to the left so we can see the section I'm talking about. As I said, if we enter an amount of 10,000 Rand paid for fuel by the employee, then a portion of this 10,000 Rand based on private distance will be added to the claim. Private distance was 80% of total distance, so the claim will be increased by 8,000 Rand. The reason why the claim is increased by the private distance portion is that the employee has already paid tax when the fringe benefit amount was levied at salary source. You may come across a case where the employer acquires a car from car hire companies such as Avis Car Hire and gives the car to an employee as a company car. This is what is known as an operating lease. The fringe benefit amount will be the car rental amount paid by the employer to the car hire company plus fuel paid by the employer. 80% or 20% of this amount will be levied at salary source, and the entire fringe benefit amount will appear on the IRP5 as Code 3816, just as with the Code 3802. The calculator handles operating lease cases just like Code 3802 amounts, except that we do not enter a car cost into the calculator. I will now remove the car value. With no car value entered, the calculator will immediately recognize this as an operating lease, and the same rules apply for SARS's claim as with ordinary Code 3802 amounts. Without a car value, Wintax cannot work out a claim, so Wintax adopts SARS's claim amount here. You can see here that SARS's claim is the fringe benefit amount for this car multiplied by the business distance over the total distance. Nothing changes with regard to SARS's claim calculation, as SARS's claim calculation ignores the car value. This calculator also handles multiple cars. You just add more cars using the add button at the bottom of the calculator screen. SARS and this calculator use a procedure where they split the Code 3802 amount on the IRP5 between the cars according to the days of use of the cars, if the cars were all supplied by the same employer and only one Code 3802 amount is on the IRP5. You can select that Wintax does the split automatically for you in cases like this. If the cars came from different employers, or if any of the cars were a result of an operating lease, then you must then enter the fringe benefit amounts off the IRP5s for each car here. The claim calculations for each car will then be worked out as normal, and the total of the claims will be used to adjust the taxpayer's taxable income.